In the heart of rural Nebraska, where the sky met the earth in a seamless horizon, stood a house that seemed to sigh with age. To Eleanor Vance, it was a sanctuary, a place she had chosen 35 years ago when she left her bustling life in Atlanta for a quieter, more grounded existence with her husband, James. James Vance was a man of few words, his love expressed not through grand gestures, but through steady, reliable actions. He was the kind of man who would fix a leaky faucet before you even asked, and who always had a fresh cup of coffee waiting for her in the mornings. Their life was a tapestry woven from quiet routines and shared glances, a life built on a foundation of small, everyday certainties. But their life together held a single, unwavering mystery, an old, weather-beaten barn standing a short walk from their back door. It was a crooked structure with a padlock on its door, a bright, modern lock that contrasted sharply with the barn's decaying wood. From the day they moved in, James had been clear. "I don't want you to go in there, Elle," he'd said, his voice firm. "It's old, it's unsafe, just a mess of rusted tools and old junk." Eleanor, though curious, had respected his wish, and over the years, the barn had become a silent but constant presence in their lives, a closed door between two people who were otherwise inseparable. As time went on, Eleanor's curiosity grew. She would sometimes see James disappear into the barn late at night, a flashlight in his hand, only to return a little while later without a word. Once, she saw him carrying a strangely shaped package, which he took straight inside without opening. The barn became more than just a forbidden place, it was a symbol of the unspoken. It represented a part of James she couldn't reach, a corner of his heart she wasn't allowed to see. She trusted him completely, yet the locked door created a subtle, lingering silence between them. Their biggest sorrow was a shared one. After years of trying to have a family, they had finally surrendered to the quiet grief of unexplained infertility. The hopeful calendars, the doctor's appointments, the whispered prayers had all given way to a heavy, unspoken silence. The barn, which she had once seen as a simple mystery, now felt like a second layer of grief, a physical manifestation of all the things their life was missing. Then, James got sick. It began with subtle signs: a tired look in his eyes, a slowness in his step, a tremor in his hand. The decline was swift and unforgiving. The drive to the hospital, the sterile waiting room, the doctor's somber face, the memories were a blur. The diagnosis was pancreatic cancer, and it was too late. James, ever the pragmatist, refused treatment. "I want to spend the time I have left here with you," he told her, his voice a frail whisper. Eleanor became his caretaker, the strong, steady hand he had once been for her. She managed his medication, made his favorite meals, and read to him as he drifted in and out of sleep. In those final weeks, the barn faded from her thoughts, replaced by the crushing weight of their shared reality. One afternoon, as she helped him onto the porch swing, he gripped her hand with surprising strength. "Eleanor," he said, his eyes filled with a deep, bottomless sorrow, "promise me you won't go in there. Not even after I'm gone." The request was a final, desperate plea, and she agreed without hesitation. She had promised to love him, to care for him, and now she promised this, a final gesture of trust for the man who was leaving her. He died peacefully in his sleep, his hand still loosely curled in hers. In the days following the funeral, the house felt emptier than the prairie itself. Eleanor moved through the rooms in a fog, each object a painful reminder of his absence. She tried to follow the routines they had built, but without James, they felt hollow. The one thing that held her gaze, day after day, was the barn. It was a constant, dark presence, a question that refused to be silenced. Her promise to him was a heavy chain, but the weight of the unknown was becoming unbearable. One morning, standing at the kitchen window with a coffee cup in her hand, she knew she had to break her promise. Her grief had nowhere to land, no place to settle, and the barn felt like the final, missing piece of a puzzle. With a newfound resolve, she walked toward the barn, the grass cool and wet beneath her bare feet. Her hands trembled as she reached into her pocket and pulled out the key she had found in his nightstand drawer. It was a simple, unmarked key, and it felt like holding a live wire. With a quiet click, the latch gave way. Eleanor hesitated for a moment, the wind whispering a final warning, but she pushed the door open anyway. A gust of wind rushed out, carrying with it the scent of dust, wood, and something sweet and faintly familiar. The light that filtered through the cracks in the walls painted thin, dusty stripes across the floor. This wasn't a workshop. There were no oil drums, no rusted tools, no forgotten junk. Instead, the space opened up into a secret world. On the far wall, a dozen children's drawings were neatly pinned up, their bright, uneven crayon lines showing a family of stick figures holding hands under a lopsided sun. The words scrawled above them made her knees go weak. For Mom and Dad, our family. Beneath the drawings, a small wooden crib stood silently in the corner, its white paint peeling, a knitted blanket folded neatly inside. A battered teddy bear sat on a bookshelf next to a stack of well-worn children's books, a wooden train set snaking across the floor. It was a nursery, a beautifully, heartbreakingly created nursery for the child they never had. Her eyes fell on a blue spiral-bound notebook on a small table. With trembling hands, she picked it up and opened to the first page. The neat, familiar block letters of his handwriting filled the page. Diary of a Father. For you, my child, if you ever find this. She sank to the floor, the notebook a silent testimony to a world of hope and grief she had never known he carried. He wrote about the crib he had built, nail by nail, about the imagined conversations with his child, about the dreams he had for a family that would never be. He wrote about the quiet joy he found in this secret place, and the ache he felt each time he had to leave it behind. One entry, written a few weeks before he died, brought her to her knees. I didn't tell you about this place because I wanted to spare you, he had written, his handwriting shaky and faint. I didn't want you to see that look in your eyes, the one that tells me you think you failed. You didn't. None of this was your fault. I built this for me, for us, for what could have been. If you're reading this, then I'm gone, and I'm sorry for the things I didn't say. Tears streamed down Eleanor's face, a torrent of grief for the child they never had and for the man who had carried the weight of that loss all on his own. She realized his silence was not a withdrawal, but a form of protection. He had built this sanctuary not to hide a secret, but to hold on to a dream, a hope so fragile and so precious he couldn't bear to expose it to the harsh light of their reality. In the weeks that followed, Eleanor returned to the barn every day. She dusted the shelves, straightened the pictures, and sat in the small rocking chair he had placed there, the gentle creak a soothing rhythm. The barn, once a symbol of what was missing, was now a place of profound connection. It was no longer a monument to his sorrow, but a testament to his unwavering love. She began to bring her own memories into the space, a faded doll from her childhood, a photograph of her father. This was no longer just his dream, it was theirs. One day, she found a second, smaller notebook tucked behind the crib. It contained only one entry, a note addressed to her. I've always loved you more than I could say, he had written. I built this room because I wanted a place to grieve and hope without hurting you. You are the strongest person I've ever known, and I am so grateful for our life. Do not let my sorrow become yours. Find a way to let the light in. And so she did. Eleanor began volunteering at the local foster agency, helping with Children's Story Hour at the library, and offering her support to families in need. She wasn't trying to replace what she had lost. Instead, she was honoring the love that had once lived in secret within those barn walls. One afternoon, at a puppet show on the town green, a small, barefoot boy climbed into her lap without a word. She held him close, her arms a warm and gentle embrace. In that moment, she wasn't just a grieving widow, she was present. That night, she returned to the barn, sat in the rocking chair, and opened her notebook. She no longer wrote about loss, but about life. You never lived in this house, she wrote, her pen steady and sure, but you lived in him, and now you live in me. You were loved. You are loved. That makes you real. The barn held its silence, but the silence was no longer empty. It was full of stories, of love, of a quiet, enduring promise. The world was still full of light, and she was ready to step back into it.